Ocho sampo pa gyu trashi pa tuche tempe chinle yarngo da belge drolor zambe zeparche pande lame shabla solvade Oma Guru Vajradara Sumati Munisha Sane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarvas Oma Guru Vajradara Sumati Munisha Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om A Guru Vajradara Sumati Munishasan Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Pakyuke Kuda Dagelu Pakyuke Sundan Dagenga Pakyuke Tugdan Dageye Tenyerme Chiktu Chingi Lo Makyuke Kudan Dagelu Makyuke Sundan Dagenga Tugdan Dageye Tenyerme Chiktu Chingi Lo Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Svoha. Sangye chedan soge chonam la chanchu pardo dani kyapso chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchre sangye drupar sho sangye chedan soge chonam la chanchu pardo dani kyapso chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki Drola pinchra sangye drupar sho sangye chodan soge chonamla chancho pardo dani kyapso chi Drola pinchra sangye drupar sho. Nel Buddha, nel Dharma e nel Sangha prendo rifugio fino all'illuminazione.
In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge.
E delle altre perfezioni possa io ottenere lo stato di Buddha per il beneficio di tutti gli esseri senzienti. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge unto enlightenment through the practice of generosity and the other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Esiste un aspetto
it exists an aspect of our path
che si ripete molto spesso.
that it repeats itself. It is repeated many times, but I don't know how we can, if we can really catch it and understand it. And it's something that I found a certain difficulty in put it into simple words. And it is that it is said that in order to bring something from a conceptual to non-conceptual level,
in qualche modo veramente trasformare più
in order to transform really our being, ourself, it's not enough to understand, as we said many times, but what is most important in order to do this process of transformation, it's receiving the blessings.
qualche anno fa, ormai sono
And
passati
some years ago, I found myself in a dilemma, which was, okay, we ask for blessings, we say blessing for this, blessing for that, in many different ways. But what does it mean, really, blessing? I asked myself. Because it's something that we say often. If we take the Buddhist texts and the prayers, there's always bless me for this, bless me for that. But when we ask to someone to bless us, what are we really asking? I received the blessings, but what does it mean? Once I asked to my teacher in Tibet, the abbot of Tashilhunpo, and he told me a blessing, something or someone that blesses, the blessing is something, it is a favorable condition in order to transform positively. So it may happen through meeting some person, or it may come through a word that we hear, or a place that we visit, or a memory of something, but it's the interaction with someone or something, and this interaction is the condition that allows a movement, a transformation inside of us, like someone that is kind of pushing us in a way. And sometimes in Tibetan, I don't know if it's in the Tibetan language in general or just in the monastic context, there is some sarcasm, and like if we go in a place and there's someone that is really angry, I think it happened to most of you to go to a place where there's someone that is really pissed, and this anger, this conduct, this attitude of this person kind of affects us. So maybe we can feel a bit bad, a bit tense after being in contact with this person and this situation. And sarcastically speaking, we say, we received their blessings. That person gave me a blessing. Okay, so at least we can understand better the meaning, because the blessings on the it's like of a blessing, but the other way around. It's like a curse, but it's not really a curse, because it's like when we say a curse, we say something that when it's said, then it may happen, but it's not this the case. The case is the curse in this sense is someone with which we enter into contact and then transforms us in a negative way, has a negative impact effect. But the blessing, it's the other way around. It's someone that through the blessing makes us feel more into contact and more into contact with love, compassion. And this also happens with places. It may happen that we go to places where we can feel these emotions more intensely. I had the luck to go to many sacred places, and each place has different characteristics, usually. For me, one of the most closest sacred place that is close to us is in Assisi.
un'energia forte.
It has a particularly powerful energy, and it has this energy of transformation. For me, it's a sacred place. But there are many places. Like sacred places are not necessarily religious. There are many natural places in the environment that have these power. Lama Rinpoche once said, the most important sacred places are the places of nature. Then we build sacred places like this temple. But the most important ones are those we find in nature. It maybe happened to you going walking in the mountains or at the seaside, and you can feel that something is changing within you. I saw this many, many times. Even here in the bushes that we have here in Albagnano, many people confirmed me that in a moment where they were maybe not feeling very well and started walking. And I urge you to try and see if there is an effect. The same in the mountain. I don't know if it's for lack of oxygen high in the mountains, but the higher you go, usually the mind slows down a bit. There are less thoughts. It has this kind of effect. And maybe in Tibet, there were many great meditators because they were over 4,000 meters and meditating in caves even higher than this. And once I went with Lama Rinpoche where Milarepa meditated. And when I came back, I was so tired that I said to myself, I will never come here again. I was very, very tired. And also Lama Rinpoche was so tired because it was like 5,000 something meters and we walked a lot until we reached the place and then come back. Was really tiresome. But anyways, apart from jokes, what happens is that each place has its characteristics, and there are some places that have special characteristics that can help us in the development of our own qualities. And there are people, and the encounter with these people, they are like a catalyzer, a condition in order to enter in contact with the sensation of love, of gratitude, or unblocking some blockages we have. And when this happens, it means we are receiving a blessing. Sometimes this happens with a word we hear, or a voice we hear, with an image that we can remember. All of these are blessings. The concept of blessing comes from something we said many times. Everywhere there is interaction, we have transformation. If I interact with a person that is in a profound state of peace, joy, and satisfaction, I imagine that this is an interaction that can lead to something positive. When I interact with someone that is in a profound state of hatred and anger and sadness, this interaction may not be so positive. Okay? So, because we are beings, we are beings that are subjected to being influenced, in our path it's important to create favorable conditions and favorable interactions for our path. So, for this, the importance of going to places that have a certain kind of energy and we're blessed, importance of having images that have this kind of characteristics in order to bless us, the objects that have some particular characteristics of blessing. There is a whole science, let's say, within Tibetan Buddhists on where to transform the energy of objects in order for them to have this positive interaction. Recently, we did this practice in these days called Rabnechemo here in Albagnano that is exactly for this. And before that, we did the Yandrup, which is similar. But anyways, in our path, it is described many times that to have a conceptual knowledge, it's okay, it's good. To learn all the texts by heart and understanding philosophical concepts, being good in debates, etc., etc., being a great scholar, it's beautiful. But if there is not the part of taking refuge in a spiritual guide, having the internal sensation of trust in order to receive the blessings, because in order to receive them we need to have an open heart. It's like a radio where there is the antenna that transmits the signal, but it depends on each one of us and how we
Se stiamo camminando per strada,
how we tune into it. It's like walking by the street, and at a certain point there is a person walking that is not feeling well, or someone that does something. If that person we don't know, we are completely indifferent to that person. It's like we're not in tune with that person and situation. But if something that happens, it happens to someone to which we are highly tuned with, for example, our mother, father, daughters, whatever, someone we are particularly connected to, and if something happens to this person, what is the impact we have? A lot more, because we are connected with this person. So it's like when we open ourselves to the other through a sensation of love, trust, this is what opens in order for us to receive what comes from the other person. And when we create these relationships, which is called a relationship between guru and disciple, it's fundamental, this sensation of trust and commutual love, because it what allows the channel to be free in order to receive and transmit. So in our practice, we have to induce ourselves to what brings us to the path, to our correct path. So the part that we saw was the part of receiving the blessing, requesting and receiving the blessing. Before that, we need to create and nurture this sensation of trust and faith towards the Guru in order to open our heart. There is the part of accumulating positive karmic force, purifying the negative one, and requesting the blessings. Because blessings are so important for our path, there is the importance of requesting them, because if we don't request them, it's very difficult to receive, because requesting is a way of opening oneself. So for this, in the practice, in the preliminary practice, after generating the motivation, so love towards ourselves and others, there is the part of requesting the blessings. Okay?
Ritorniamo un attimo al mandala.
Let's go back to the mandala. We saw earlier the outer part that represents, and we have the Vajra, which is the part of loving ourselves and the others. It's one of the symbologies. And then we have the lotus flower. The lotus flower, one of the symbologies is the feminine energy and wisdom, a coherent view of reality. In order to enter the mandala, what this is showing us is that what we need is the three principal aspects of the path: loving ourselves, the other, and having a coherent view of reality. And at the beginning of the practice, we access this as well. So what we saw this morning, and I was looking in this booklet here, there is everything very well described.
Nella pagina 25.
At page 25 of this book, which is called Guided Meditation for the Preliminary Practices and NgalSo Tantric Self-Healing, page 25.
Di fronte a noi si dissolve in una luce dorata,
Guru Buddha in front of us dissolves into a golden light. It comes towards us, enters through our foreheads, fills our center channel, and expands throughout our body and from our body throughout the whole universe, which is what we talked about today. In one instant, the universe reappears, and we appear with a pure body, made of light with a central channel and 5 chakras. What happens is this, in between here, the following happens. So everything dissolves into light, and when everything is dissolved, one of the things that happens here is that we simulate the process of death. It's a very simplified way. We're not imagining that the world disappears, but that our ability of perception of the reality ends, cessates. How many of you already fainted in life? To me, it happened one time. And I remember this sensation of slowly losing contact with the world. And then coming back, it happens very slowly. You can feel all the
Questo è molto simile a quello che viene descritto
all the sensation. That's very similar to the process of death and rebirth. What happens is that when we visualize that everything dissolves with a Guru Buddha that bless my being, myself, and we emanate this ray of light in order to bless the beings, and everything dissolves into light. This happens very quickly, and we imagine that we lose contact with the gross world and everything dissolves into light. It means from a gross body, the subtle and most subtle body manifests, is like simulating the process of death itself. And at this time, one of the most important characteristics of the practice, a bit advanced, is that we need to imagine that there is nothing but an infinite empty space. And I usually add that is light, because otherwise the tendency is to imagine the black, but it's actually empty space of light that is empty of intrinsic existence. And what does it mean?
Guardo l'orologio, no?
Here I'm looking at the clock. It's better not to enter into details, but what does this mean?
Ci sono due principali ostruzioni.
There are two principal obstructions in our path, as we said this morning: egoism, obsession to self-gratification, and ignorance, the grasping to reality in an incoherent way. Let's make 2 examples without entering into too much detail. The world that is all around us, the one that we see, it's a permanent or impermanent reality.
Per dire, secondo voi io sono permanente?
Do you think I'm permanent or impermanent?
Mi vedete oggi?
You see me today. When we will see each other tomorrow, who will you think you will meet? The same person or someone different? Our tendency is to want to see the same person. What does this show us? That even if we live in an impermanent reality, this reality appears to us as if it were permanent. We relate to it as if it were permanent. And similarly, we live in a reality that is relational.
Okay. Per relazionale.
And by relational, we mean also interdependent, but the word interdependent sometimes doesn't really catch the meaning, because with interdependence it may seem that I am here, you are there, and we relate one to each other, and we depend one from the other. But the concept of interdependence in this case is another. It's like interdependence between the runner and the act of running. If we take the runner, The runner exists in the moment that there is the act of running. But the act of running cannot exist without the runner. So this is why they are mutually dependent. This is the term in Tibetan that means that they are mutually dependent, that they exist in a mutual dependency. The runner exists in dependence of the act of running and vice versa. Here exists independence of there, and there exists independence of here, this and that. And we can make many examples with internal and external reality, what I see and the mind that perceives it, etc. They are realities that are mutually dependent. One exists like this because the other exists the other way. I read who defines this circular reality, that one thing is like this because the other is like that. So there is kind of a circularity. It's called also relational reality. Nothing exists in an autonomous way from relations and dependencies. I don't know if it's clear this. And nothing exists not at a macro or micro level, not even with the quantum. We cannot find anything that has an autonomous existence, independent or objective. Everything exists in a relational way, so interdependent and subjective. But when we look at the world, when we perceive anything, how does it appear to us? As if it were interdependent or in an autonomous, independent way. It's like, let's imagine we find ourselves in a place, I don't know, at the seaside, and we are looking at the horizon. Does it appear to us, do we perceive it as a place that is flat and that is flat and straight, or do we feel that we are in a reality that is curved a bit? When we are walking around, how does planet Earth appear to us? Flat or curved? Flat. But then if we observe with a lot of attention, then we can perceive slightly the curve of the Earth, but we are so small, because if we were living in a planet like the Little Prince, probably we would perceive this curve. If we go high, 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 theoretically, we can't see it. If we are practically at the same height, with our vision, we can see the horizon, and we can see like 5 kilometers or something like this. The higher we go, the further we can perceive the horizon, and so therefore perceiving the curve of the Earth. So we can understand this, right? But what happens when we're walking? Earth appears to us like if it were a sphere, or it appears to us as flat. It appears flat. And how do we relate with the Earth? It's flat. And then we learned that it is a sphere and this and that. But okay, there are still people who believe that the Earth is actually flat, but I always imagined, how could an eclipse exist in a flat Earth? But this is another subject. We're not here to discuss if the Earth is flat or not. There was someone here that believed that the Earth was flat, that tried to convince me, and one of his arguments was that the old texts say that the Earth was flat. And I said, look, I studied astronomy and Tibetan astrology, which were calculations of astrology, so contexts that are like at least 1300 years ago, and there Earth was actually not flat. But okay, let's close this. Let's close the brackets. But the point is, when we observe, if we did not have anybody explaining to us that the Earth is a sphere, how would it appear to us? As if it were flat, and we relate to it as if it were. Similarly, reality appears to us as if it exists in an autonomous, independent, objective way. And we don't have a real comprehension that it's different. So we relate to it as if it were autonomous, independent, and objective. One of the most important points in our path is that if we're able to detach from this grasping to a reality that is independent, autonomous, and objective, we will be able to deconstruct the basis upon which our mental defilements are. Anger, jealousy, envy, arrogance, attachment, fear, egoism, and everything else, they exist on the basis of a concept, of an appearance. That is the one that the object of anger, the object of jealousy, what we mean by object of anger is that towards which I have anger, so that becomes an object of anger, and so forth. So when we have anger, the object of anger appears to us as an object of an anger object because we projected this or because it is a bad thing. The desire object is an object of desire because we project it or because it is good. The same thing with the object of jealousy, envy, attachment, etc., etc. In reality, every one of these negative emotions are based on the fact that we grasp to the object of that emotion as if it existed in an objective, autonomous, independent way. Okay. If we melt this, then we won't have the basis upon which to have these mental defilements. And I know it's very complex and complicated, and for this reason we need to repeat it many times. And in Tantra practices, the two necessary things that we need, like that are described as the two wings in order to fly, is the method, so love and compassion from one side towards ourselves and others, and wisdom, correct view of reality. So realizing interdependence of phenomena, and so they do not exist in an autonomous, objective way as they appear. So this non-existence in an objective way as they appear, it's called emptiness. So it appears to me as if the earth were flat, but the earth is empty of the existence of it being flat. So it appears to me as if it's permanent, but you're empty of the existence of being permanent. So this is what we mean by emptiness. I don't know if this is clear. Yes, no, more or less. Okay, let's go back to it again. Our ignorance exists in two ways. There is the ignorance of not seeing and the ignorance of seeing incorrectly. Let's make some examples. Ignorance of not seeing. What is it in this cup? What do I have in this cup? I don't know. Full stop. This is the ignorance of not seeing. I don't know what there is inside. I don't see. I don't know. So I am ignorant towards what there is inside the cup. But if I say inside the cup there is milk with chocolate, this is ignorance of seeing wrongly, because inside there is water with saffron. The ignorance of seeing wrongly is when we are convinced of something that is incoherent. So ignorance of not seeing is the one that is referring to the fact that in the present moment we are not able to see the causes that created the present moment. In the present moment, we're not able to see the results that the actions of the present will bring tomorrow. This is an example of ignorance of not seeing. And the other one of seeing in a wrong way is the one in which I grasp to you as if you were permanent, even though you are impermanent. Reality appears to me as if it were autonomous, independent, objective, and I grasp to it as if it were exactly like this. So this is ignorance of seeing wrongly. So our ignorance is principally an affirmation. We will affirm that reality is in a way that actually is not. But it's not, our ignorance doesn't work on a conceptual level. It works at a non-conceptual level, spontaneous level. And there are many studies and debates. Some say that it's in a sensational, sensorial level. But anyways, now this is not the point. So our ignorance is the fact that there is an illusory appearance and we grasp to it as if it were real. If I need to eliminate and purify something that is an affirmation, I need to put in action its direct opposite. So it means that I need a negation. If I need to eliminate a negation, I will need an affirmation that opposes to it, or a double negation. But anyways, our ignorance is really an affirmation. This is why we are able to have contradictory views and incoherent. For example, I am able to see you. You appear to me as if you were permanent. Okay. And I can still say you're constantly changing, but I still see you as if you were permanent. It depends on causes and conditions, everything that interacts, transforms, but still you continue to appear to me as if you were permanent. In order to take out this mind that grasps to this as if it were permanent, I need to generate the mind that says it's not permanent. Or in this case, it's impermanent. I need to negate what I was affirming. In other words, our mind, in order to eliminate a certain thought, we need to generate the one that is directly opposing it. So our ignorance is not the mind that is saying to myself, my sensation, the object that I perceive, the world, anything. It's not interdependent. This would be actually a quite evolved ignorance. Our ignorance says it is autonomous, it is objective. So wisdom needs to be, it's not autonomous, it's not objective. So it's empty. It lacks of an intrinsic objective existence. This is why we talk about emptiness. There is lack of something. So going back to the meditation, what happens in this moment, we have this sensation of bliss, the appearance of infinite light, emptiness. It's a perception that simulates the subtle level of consciousness in which there is no more the perception of space. So we don't have this here, there, this or that. We don't have the perception of time before, after, now, yesterday, tomorrow. We only have this infinite emptiness that is empty of intrinsic existence, that doesn't exist in an autonomous, independent, objective way. I know it's something very complex, but in the practice we will repeat it many times. It will come back to us many times. So slowly, it will make more sense. And right after we generate the bodhicitta, When ray of light and Guru Buddha enters in our body and everything expands, this light expands and everything dissolves into light. Ideally, for a moment, we enter into contact with this thought. Nothing exists in an autonomous, independent, and objective way as it appears. Everything is interdependent. And this, we start to get into contact with the other fundamental condition, which is this vision of interdependence and correct view of reality that is represented in the mandala, is represented by this lotus circle, which represents the feminine energy, the wisdom, and correct view of reality. So the mandala, from one side, it represents an existence, a universe that we create. And what sustains all of this is love, compassion, and correct view of reality. This is what it's at the basis that sustains everything else. And in this temple, this is represented both inside and outside. Outside, in the rooftop, there is a part in copper with these lotus flowers that circle around the whole temple. So what protects everything that is inside the temple, it's love and wisdom. So now in this part of the practice, we're entering the mandala where we have to overcome our egoism, overcome, at least in a gross level, the barrier of ignorance, and we enter the mandala. If we look at the mandalas, you can simply look up here in the temple. You can see that there is, after the flowers, we have this green part with the gardens, and it's like it represents us. We entered the mandala, but we did not enter in effect in the principal part of the mandala, the core. And this part is where we go from the generation stage in order to build this mandala. So we are building a creation, and in the completion stage, we will use what we built earlier. So in the generation stage, we are building this mandala with each part that it composes it. And the first part is this that is around us, of this garden, and this is represented when in the practice rays of light came to us, everything dissolved into light, and the universe appears once again, and we find ourselves in a pure place. From our heart, rays of light emanates, and they purify and transform the environment. So we are creating this environment around us. And usually it is represented by this green part inside of the mandala with the gardens. If we see more detail, we can see that there are usually mountains, lakes, forests, and there are beautiful parts of the description that say every sound of nature is transmitting Dharma. The first time I heard this was I was thinking like, what? The birds are talking, giving teachings. No, it's not this. It's the fact that if we're able to see, we can see interdependence. And nature shows us in many different ways. So every aspect of nature in this mandala, from the sound, to the wind, to the water, and the singing of the birds, from the light of the sun or the moon, everything bring us a different part of the path: interdependence, equanimity, love, compassion, etc. So we create this environment, and this part is where we say, this part in Tibetan, And I think this part, this verse comes from the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, and it says, "May the earth become pure without roughness or thorns, like the palm of a child's hand, and smooth in nature like lapis lazuli," which is a poetic way saying, I'm creating an environment free from any kind of conflict, tension, impurity.
Qui c'è un punto particolare.
Here there is a particular aspect that is, once Dragon Rinpoche told me with these words, the first thing we need to do in order for something to happen is to desire it. And there is a place in the Vajrayana Buddhism in Tantra where we imagine, offer, desire, dedicate pure environments. Why this? Because a pure environment is important for everybody living in that environment. In our spiritual path, the environment we live in is very important for us. So even when we do the offering of the mandala, we concentrate on the concept of making an offer, but if we read the meaning of this part, at page 35, it says, this mandala, this universe, this world, this reality, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, sun and moon, I offer to the Buddhas, and through the merits created in this, may all sentient beings enjoy this pure world. So I offer this pure environment, and may it create a positive interdependence in order for every being to live in it. So it's like generating mentally the causes, initial causes, in order to live in a pure world. So this is one of the aspects. And if we talk on a more gross level, if I'm always visualizing a pure environment with nature and the importance of living in such a place, in somewhere we hope it will enter inside of us to take care of the environment we live in. Lama started to talk about the importance of taking care of the environment in 1995. And he repeated it in every moment, in every way, how to take care of the environment, the importance of it. And then slowly, it became something that it's been talked about much more, and now it's kind of mainstream. But the point is that it's very important, because it's important that we can take care of a pure and safe environment. So this visualization is also in order to create awareness and creating the subtle causes from which this can happen. So what does this all have to do with receiving the blessings? We invite the sacred beings to come to this place in order to grant us the blessings. So for this reason, before we meditate on this emptiness of intrinsic existence, because the basis to create this reality is the fact that we live in a subjective, interdependent world, and so it's like creating this reality that from one side it's imagination, from another is also subjective reality, and what I create mentally, then I can materialize it some way. Our mind has great power. In other words, if we ask ourselves what comes earlier, the consciousness or the or the matter, but it's a bit like the runner and the act of running. There is who says before comes the matter, and before comes the consciousness. If I had to choose, I would say before comes consciousness, but I think it's much more complex than this. But what happens is that imagining and desiring creates reality, and this is possible on the basis of the emptiness of intrinsic existence. So this is why we start from this great emptiness. So we remind to ourselves that everything is empty of intrinsic existence, and on this basis we create a new reality. So we imagine this beautiful environment. We put in front of us many beautiful offers because I want to invite someone very important. And when we invite someone important at home, what do? We clean a bit house, we go get the groceries, we prepare something good, or this guest that we're waiting for many years finally arrives. What do we host him just like this without effort? In our culture is lesser than in the Eastern culture. There it's quite offensive not receiving someone without offering something, because it means that you're not actually welcome. But in our culture, you know, how many times maybe like Tibetans come here and into a Western house. Ah, okay, hi, what do you need? Okay, it ended, and they kind of stay quite.
Nella cultura tibetana arrivi nella casa di qualcuno
Disappointed from this. So on the other hand, if we go to the house of Eastern people, they will always offer us something, whether it's tea or something to eat, and it has a lot of symbology actually. If someone gifts you some nuts, the ones that are closed, it means that you talk too much. If they have the shell, if they gift a nut with a shell, because when you need to say to someone to stay silent, they say nuts. It means like with the shell, just close your mouth. And for example, if someone is talking badly about someone would just gift this big container full of nuts with a shell, and you would understand that. So this is part of their culture, so everybody have their own ways. But at this moment, we want to invite Guru Buddha and the sacred beings to come here. We need to prepare the place and prepare the offers. And here, from the transformation of the offerings, the offering mantra, and the expressing the power of the truth, is the part of purifying, transforming, and multiplying the offerings. If we can at least put some incense, give some water, at least something that is materials, a flower or something, is better. If we can materialize the offerings, has a benefit, but I will not enter into detail now. Once we've done this, we go to visualize Guru Buddha in front of us. When we take refuge, there is the tendency to visualize as Buddha Shakyamuni. When we do in the self-healing, in this moment of the practice, we visualize principally in the aspect of our root guru. So I visualize Lama Rinpoche, for example. We can visualize in the aspect of Lama Tsongkhapa, even Buddha Shakyamuni. It's not that it's something bad. There's no counterindication for this, but it's better to visualize the root guru. And one of the reasons is that what we need to cultivate in this moment before requesting blessings is cultivating the sensation of taking refuge in the Guru with the sensation of love, gratitude, faith. Who of you followed the teachings of the Lamrim, where there is all this part of how to rely correctly on the Guru, where there is all this importance of generating this internal sensation of relying, of affection, of trust. This is the moment where we need to connect with all of this. And if we go and see towards whom can we nurture and cultivate this sensation of love, a Buddha that we never met, that is more a painting, or someone towards which we have a connection and a more direct relationship. Me personally, when I imagine Lama Ganchen Rinpoche, it moves me inside much more than with any other imagination. So for me, imagining Lama Ganchen Rinpoche in this visualization, one of the most powerful things for me is reminding myself of his smell. We know that the smell is one of the most direct senses. And Lama Ganchen used to have a very peculiar smell. And when I remember this, it's something that even now, just saying it, moves something inside of me. So for me, imagining my guru, it's much more direct as an access to this sensation of gratitude, of love, faith, etc., rather than visualizing any other images, even if they're marvelous. But so we will visualize our root guru at this point that is inseparable from all the other gurus. My master used to describe that when we visualize the Guru Buddha, it's the guru inseparable from all the Buddhas, and we can visualize it also as a hologram that from one master transforms into the other, because it's multifaceted within one. So we visualize our guru, and in his 5 chakras we have the 5 Dhyani Buddhas representing his 5 aggregates and his qualities in a pure state. The quality is developed at their maximum potential. So with all the qualities developed, and here there's an important moment, that is when we visualize, we are creating what it's called the Samaya being, or Samaya Sattva in Sanskrit. The translation is the commitment being. But for me, it should be better to find another translation. So who speaks Sanskrit, please find a better translation for Samaya. But one of the meanings is the point of encounter. And an example I did many times is, many of you know Lama Caroline, right? We talked many times about also Kyabje Tricha Rinpoche. When we see a picture of Lama Caroline here, or of Kyabje Tricha Rinpoche, for those who know Lama Caroline, when we see the picture, with what do we connect? Automatically, with what we connect? With her. The same thing for Tricha Rinpoche. For those who do not know who they are, it's more difficult to create a connection. But even now that you're looking at me, but really, what are you seeing? My person, my being? Or are you looking at this light that arrives to your body and you see the form of my body with the clothes I have on? What do you see with your eyes? You see my person or my body? The body. Actually, of the body you see quite not much, because we have clothes and everything. But what happens is, when you see me, and this also happens when I see you, really, with whom are you entering into contact? With the body, the image, or the person? But the person is much more than the body. The person in its whole, it's called the wisdom being, Jnana Sattva. When we talk about wisdom beings, it's not referring only to the Buddhas or enlightened beings. Think of someone, of anybody. Think of someone that is famous that is not that has nothing to do with enlightenment. Let's think of this person, and really we are connecting with the wisdom being of this person, where the name and the mental image are a bridge in order to connect with this being. And the most powerful level is when we are in front of the presence of that person. The voice, the image, the name are all bridges to connect to the person. There are some people that are also able to perceive the presence of another person through perceiving their energy. So the picture, the painting, the mental image, the name, the voice, they're all bridges and points of encounter that are called Samaya beings that enable us to connect to the being that transcends this image. And the interesting thing is that this system is not something created. It's a spontaneous thing, because when I see Lama Caroline, I think of her. When I see the image of Tricha Rinpoche, of Lama Kanche Rinpoche, if I want to or not, I will connect with them. Goes beyond a reasoning process. And for this reason, it is said that everywhere there is the commitment being, there is the wisdom being. The moment that I have your photo and I know you, automatically I cannot look at your picture and not connect with you, not think of you and not perceive you and not connect with you. Is it clear, this? So, when we visualize Guru Buddha, what I'm visualizing, it's called the commitment being that naturally connects me to the wisdom being. Where there is the commitment being, there is the wisdom being. So it means when I have the image of Atisha, Atisha is present. I have Lama Tsongkhapa, Lama Tsongkhapa is present. This painting is a commitment being and is a bridge to the wisdom being. But we don't really trust it. We say, but is it really? This is a painting, it's not Lama Tsongkhapa. We are meditating and visualizing Guru Buddha, and we say, but this is just my own imagination, it's not that he's really here. So in order to overcome this, our insecurity and uncertainty, because where there is the commitment being, there is the wisdom being, in order to overcome our own uncertainty and doubt, we do this part of invoking the wisdom beings. So we imagine a ray of lights coming from our heart, and we ask the wisdom beings to come to this place through the power of our faith, the power of our trust, love, with the power of the compassion of the wisdom being. We ask Guru Buddha to come to this place. Then, when a being doesn't have a gross body, it is said that it moves from one place to another with at the speed of the thought. So maybe someone can get confused and say, if we all do the practice, to who Guru Buddha goes to whose house? This preoccupation should not arise, but because one of the characteristics, when we talk about an enlightened being, one of the most important characteristics is the ability of manifesting in many realities at the same time, based on the necessities and needs of each one of us. So, and moreover, when I'm thinking of you, I am communicating with you, and you perceive it. And consequently, you think about me, and I receive something from you. This it happens in every moment of our life.
Ok, spiego. Mhm. Ok, finisco il concetto di prima, poi rispondo a questo.
I will first finish what I was saying, then I reply to the question that was just made. So, in the moment that I am thinking of you, there is a part of connection, of communication towards you, and you can perceive it. And this is in everyday life. There are interesting and funny studies about this scientist, Rupert Sheldrake. He made some studies
Quindi pensi a qualcuno, quella persona ti
about this, like for example, when we think of someone and then that person calls us. And he arrived to the conclusion that why this happens, because before calling, the person is thinking of you. So the person thinks and then calls. And before the call, the thought arrives. So when we think in Guru Buddha receives what I am communicating, and at the same time comes back. And there is this contact. What happens is, and we enter in a difficult topic to comprehend, not because you don't have the preparation or any of that, but it's difficult because it goes out of our paradigm. When we talk about a spiritually very evolved being, it exists a part of the gross manifestation, and then there is their essence, let's say. When we connect with Lama Rinpoche, I connect to his essence. As Lama Rinpoche was asking blessings to his root guru, even when his reincarnation was already born, he met him and everything. So one connects to the essence of this being that goes beyond the physical manifestation. So about this, we don't need to worry. So in this moment, we request to Guru Buddha to come here, and we ask every sacred being to come to this place. And by doing this request, even if we visualize as our Guru, in reality, we are asking to any kind of enlightened being or evolved master to come here. We can put anyone in the list. We can imagine all the wisdom beings, love beings that come to this place and that absorb in Guru Buddha in front of us. As we said earlier, where there is the commitment being, there is the wisdom being, but because we have our doubts and we don't trust our own visualization, we need to do this part that is an additional part. So we invite the wisdom beings that absorb in the commitment being. This is a concept that I already explained many times, but it's important to say one more time because it is repeated in all the practices of meditation that we do within the Vajrayana and all the sadhanas. There's always this aspect, and by this we also understand why we have all these sacred images. The function of these images, for example, that we have here, is not decorative, is not to remind us of something. The function of these images is to be a bridge between the commitment beings and wisdom beings. This is the function. And for this reason, that when we have the image of something that is sacred, we need to treat it with respect, not because that piece of paper is sacred, but because it is a bridge where there is the wisdom being that connects me to this. So we need some kind of attention towards this. So in practice, what we do, we ask to Guru Buddha to come. We see that he comes, and once we are in front of the presence of the enlightened being, what do? We do what is called the 7-limb prayer. So the 7 limbs are 7 things to do in order to cultivate a healthy relationship in general. And these 7 limbs are something that I invite everyone to put it into action into our everyday life. For example, the basis of the relationship between us and the guru, or in a loving relationship, or in any kind of relationship, the basis are the 7 limbs. If we are able to put this into practice, they are 7 things to do that we need in order to maintain a relationship that is healthy, that are prostrate. So it means actually, I'm seeing you, you exist. Because after a while in relationships, we don't even see the other. We only see the function that the other has for us, or what the other communicates to us, but we have difficulties by seeing the other one. So we pay tribute to Buddha, reminding ourselves his qualities and the importance of him being in our life. So we pay tribute and we prostrate in everyday life. This means to say hello to everybody and look each and everyone in the eye. And the second is make offerings. So materializing towards the other what are our sensations that we want to cultivate: gratitude, love, trust. We materialize in a form of something that we will offer. So in this case, there are the offering divinities manifesting from the heart, bringing the offerings to Guru Buddha. We can visualize beautiful things. So there are these divinities that brings the offering to Guru Buddha. Guru Buddha receives them. He generates a sensation of bliss through which he realizes the nature of every phenomena, emptiness, and then the divinities absorb back to our heart. So we do these offerings. I will not get into too much detail. After the offerings, we acknowledge all our harmful actions. Specifically, we should admit openly our mistakes in relation to that person or that being. So if I find myself in front of Guru Buddha, I say, okay, what are the actions towards the Guru that were harmful? For example, not continuing some commitments, or having some bad thoughts, bad words. What are those actions that were not correct towards him? So what happens is I look at those behaviors that were not healthy from my side, and the first thing is to openly admit them in order to clean our past. So I go to meet someone, I pay tribute to that person, I bring a gift, and then I say, sorry, okay, what are the things I did that until now that did not work well? Maybe one time I thought this, or the other time that I said that. What did I do that was harmful? And the point is not to generate a sense of guilt, but to clean the sensation of the fact that we did something wrong. So we don't need to feel guilt anymore one towards the other, because in relationships we accumulate some tensions, and we should clean them, and this is something we should do every day. So we find ourselves in front of Guru Buddha and we admit what were the thoughts, the words, the actions unhealthy that we had in relation to Guru Buddha. And then in general, what were the actions of body, speech and mind that we recognize that we should not do and that we do not want to do anymore. And this is the part we call of purification. We could enter in many details with the practices of purification that are very nice. Maybe in another moment we can enter into detail, but not right now. So we prostrate, we make offerings, we acknowledge the harmful actions and clean the past, and then we rejoice. So we rejoice of all the good things, and this is something usually we forget to do. So it's important to see the other and see, it's beautiful that there is this thing, that this happened, thank you for this, thank you for that. Think of the relations we have in our daily life. How many times do we celebrate the good things, that we say thank you, or we rejoice of the positive things that there are? I hope very often, but sometimes it doesn't happen. But it's so important for many reasons. And here in front of Guru Buddha, we rejoice of all the good things that Guru Buddha did, his qualities, we rejoice. Then the fifth action is, okay, we are in front of Guru Buddha. What do I expect from you? What do I want from you? It's like saying, going to the dentist. What do you want from the dentist? You say hi. The offering usually comes last.
Dice, non ho lavato i denti bene, mi dispiace.
And you say, I did not clean very well my teeth, I'm sorry, I didn't do this or that very well. Look, the treatment that we did up until now, thank you, it worked, so let's move on. And what do I expect from you, dentist? That you would do the correct treatments and take care of my teeth. The sixth point, until when do I want to stay with you? Until I need it. Similarly, what do we expect? If from the dentist we expect him to take care of our teeth, what do we expect from Guru Buddha? That he eliminates our suffering? That he can take us out from samsara? No. What do we expect from Guru Buddha? That he gives us the Dharma, that he can guide us in a correct way, in order for us to get out of this cycle of samsara. So I ask, oh Guru Buddha, please guide me, bless me, give me the sacred Dharma, stay close to me with Dharma in every moment of my life, in every choice I make, in every word I say, in every thought I have during my life, in the moment of death, during Bardo, and in all the rebirths of the future, until I will be able to reach enlightenment. So guide me until I need it. And so this is a fifth and sixth limb, so requesting the Dharma and requesting to stay with us until the end of samsara. When we have a mundane relationship, is what do I expect from you, and for how long? And there's an interesting part of what do I expect from you. When there is clarity from both sides of what we expect from each other, it takes out a lot of problems, even with ourselves. It's very interesting, this, because any kind of relationship, friendship, what do I want from you? I expect from you that you are close to me in my difficult moments. Okay, this is what I expect, and you know it. What do I expect from you? Love, affection, sincerity. Depends on the kind of relationships we have. I expect from you that when it's the moment to eat, you help me to eat, or when I have a headache, you give me a massage, or if I go to the physician, what do I expect? So there are different kinds of relationships, and so it's a different exchange that happens. So I prostrate, I make offerings, I acknowledge my harmful actions, I rejoice, I request the Dharma, and for how long I want to follow this path with you. And the last of the 7 limbs is, why am I doing all of this? Why am I asking your blessings? Why do I want to receive the teachings? Because I want to be of benefit to every sentient being. So I dedicate this path and all the actions I make in this path so that they are of benefit to all sentient beings. So the dedication, it's a return on the motivation, the initial motivation. And these are called the 7 limbs: prostrating, making offerings, acknowledging harmful actions, rejoicing, celebrating, making request of time also, so having a vision of the future, and then the dedication, which is a reconnection. So why does this relationship exist? Is it an end in itself, or is a means to something bigger? So this is what's called the 7-limb prayer. So we do this with Guru Buddha, and once we conclude this, at this point, we ask the blessings and we do the visualization where we receive the blessings, and we will see this tomorrow morning. Once we finish the part of receiving the blessings is when we will go to build our mandala, so building this reality. So what are up until the request of the blessings is where we are creating and accumulating the resources in order to build this reality. And at the basis we have love, compassion, correct view of reality that sums with the accumulation of positive karmic force, purification of the negative one, and the blessings. So this is the basis upon which to build a reality that we want to familiarize with, that is represented in the case of mandala, in the building of the mandala, of the construction. So this is to give a bit an idea. We did not enter into detail in each of these points. I would like to enter in some details, but more forward in the practice. I need to contain myself a bit, otherwise we could spend whole days talking about these points. But I think it's quite clear, the overview, and it's important to see that there is a coherency in the path, this path. So we almost concluded the preliminary practices. We still have to do the part of receiving the blessings, and we will see it tomorrow. So now let's do the final dedications.
Drove munsela takto ne gyurche kewa kunto yanda lama dang dralme cheki pela longche ching sadan lamge yunten rabzone dorje change kopanyur tob sho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan dele kshin Ninsen takto delekpe kuncho sumke chingelo kuncho sumke ngodrubutsol kuncho sumke trashisho. All'alba o al tramonto, di notte o durante il giorno, possano i 3 gioielli concederci le loro benedizioni, possano aiutarci ad ottenere tutte le realizzazioni e cospargere il sentiero della nostra vita con molti segni di buon auspicio. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the 3 jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and spring all the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. questo modo concludiamo per oggi. C'era una
We
sola
conclude
cosa
for
che volevo
today.
molto brevemente
There's just one thing that I wanted to remind very briefly that is somehow connected to what we saw today.
queste cose, se non
And
ricordate
then
per
these things, if I don't say now, I will forget. So
quando si parla dell'essere
when we
dell'intento,
talk about the commitment being this bridge,
è sulla base di
it's
questo
on the
concetto
basis
che
of
si
this
sono
concept
create
that
nei secoli
were
la
created
tradizione dei
in
dipinti, delle
time
statue,
this concept of the
che
paintings, of
poi dopo si è
statues,
sviluppato in un modo
that
molto
developed
evoluto.
in a
Le
very
statue
evolved way. For
all'interno
example,
vengono
the
riempite in
statues
modo
are
molto
filled up
specifico,
in a very
particolare,
specific way.
e la mia esperienza
And my
personale,
personal
mi è
experience,
capitato più
that
volte,
happened many times is that
è strano dirlo,
it's
di solito io
strange,
non sono quello che
and I'm usually not
però
the
più
mystic
volte ho
one, but
visto più rendi una
I
statua,
saw many times
prima e dopo cambia
the
espressione, c'è questa
difference of the facial expression of the statue before and after it's filled up, and it's quite strange, but I realized this some few times. And it also happened in Brazil that we filled up this Buddha statue. When we finished, I looked I looked at the statue. We all looked at each other and we were like, it changed. This statue changed. Something is there that was not there before. So there exists an aspect of giving the blessings to the object in order for it to have some energy, etc. So the function of the bridge, of the commitment being, is to keep this connection. And when I was with Lama Rinpoche in Tibet, a year after we went to the monastery of Demogonsa Rinpoche, one of his teachers that passed away, talking with him in the airplane, we were just in front of the body of his teacher that died a few years before, and I asked him, Rinpoche, but the day that you will not be here anymore physically with the body, what will we do? And he gave me a very specific indications also regarding like who we need to call to do pujas and prayers and ceremonies. And he said, look, when I will die, you will not be able to invite anybody. And I was like, wow, what are you talking about? I'm very pragmatic, so don't even say this. You are a very important Lama, so of course people will come. And he will say, no, the condition, we will not have the conditions, there will be no conditions for people to come. And I did not understand. But he said, those that will be present in the presence of my body will need to do the practices that I transmitted. And after a while, he used to say, my body will have to stay intact, because he said, look, this body received so many blessings in this life that when I will go in a new body, I don't even know if in my new body I will receive all the blessings that I received in this body. So keep this body, not for anything else, but because it's received a lot of blessings. So if it will not be possible to create it and keep it intact, then you can cremate it, but don't do it before 1 year, because people will not be able to come to Albagnano for at least 1 year. And I was like, what are you talking about, Rinpoche? I do not understand. But okay, I will write it down. And then when Rinpoche died during COVID, I was like, this is the perfect moment, because which other moment this would have happened with these conditions? I don't see. So in that moment I asked him, Rinpoche, what do we do after? Do we need to build many stupas? Stupas are like this one that we have here behind the column, this golden stupa, golden, and it's like these symbols that represent the enlightened mind, and we have various relics of Lama Rinpoche inside, and it's the tradition when the master leaves the body. There are many stupas that are being done where there are inside some of his personal objects, and there are parts of the body once it's cremated. And in all his years he accumulated his nails, and we kept it apart. So we were like, okay, we build many stupas to distribute to different disciples. And he said, no, 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 stupas people do not understand. Do statues. And I said, okay, but how should we do the statue? Because with my pragmatic approach, I was like, okay, how do you want it? Do we do it like in a Mahasiddha way or a Pandita? That are the two traditional ways in which to represent a master. Pandita is like here, represented by Tricha Rinpoche, and Mahasiddha is represented like Tilopa, Naropa, that are up there, up Vairocana. But anyways, he said, no, no, no. You have to represent me how I am, how people are used to see me in my everyday life. So when Lama Ganchen Rinpoche left his body, one of the things I did is prepare slowly this statue. It's not easy for various reasons. Also because the physiognomy of Lama Ganchen Rinpoche was very peculiar. So to create a statue that convinced me was not easy. So I tried with an artist that I didn't like. Then we did 3 trials. And the last one I was like, okay, this is good enough. I like it. So we did this work representing him physically with the clothes that he usually had, with the pockets full, and not even he knew what he had in his pocket, but we wanted to represent him in the most similar way of how he manifested in his everyday life. So we did this project. Now we are in the phase where we can materialize the statue. So the modeling part was made in 3D through, and now is the moment to ask for more statues. So in a practical level, what happens is not an object that we will be able to order in continuity. So at the moment, we need to understand how many statues we need to order based on how many people want them, because it's a sacred object that will be filled up with these pills, with the nails and the hair of Lama Ganchen Rinpoche and parts of his clothes, also with the sacred mantras, in order for it to become the commitment being, a bridge for each and every one of us. So what I invite you to do is, for those who have the possibility and really want this, to book this statue, because the earlier we are able to do it, the earlier we are able to order it. And I would not want to do this process of people that want the statue and then they don't know it, they don't ask it, and then the statue arrives, and then people get sad about this, and then so it's also not a project, an object that we can produce in with big numbers and just keep it in the stock. It's a sacred object, so we cannot do this. So this is why I had this request of having this project where each and every one of us that is interested can book this statue. And I was thinking, okay, let's see what we can do also for people that maybe have a bit economical difficulties. So there is also the possibility of dividing the price into 4. But the point is that this is a sacred object, so who has the possibility and who wants it, there is this opportunity. The statue is like also with the hat that you can put and take out. So with the hat and the lotus flower is like 30 centimeters. And there is also a statue of 150 kilos that has the dimensions of the real life Lama Ganchen Rinpoche. If someone of you is interested, also there is this possibility. They are made in copper and they are painted by hand. So I wanted to make this publicity, but it's to remind us that this is a sacred object. It's important, but we need to move with a kind of rapidity in order to ask for these orders in a correct time and have them as soon as possible.
Chekyopa lame tamcho Rinpoche, Dremba lame gendo Rinpoche, chiamne kuncho sumla chopa. Buon appetito. Grazie a tutti.
Thank you to everyone.